everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Video Game Losers. I am Dirt, and this is...
me.
Great.
Everybody should already know who I am at this point, so...
No, because we get new viewers all the time. Probably actually, in the last couple weeks with the Skylanders and the Funkies and the Disney Infinity Lego Dimensions and even the Transformers LCD game, we've actually gotten a lot more viewers.
Oh.
Views have actually gone up with those videos.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I want to thank, first of all of you new guys for checking us out, and gals, because there are some. And also...
like two.
I was also looking at some of the demographics and the stats and whatever. You can go into YouTube and see. And we've got a fair number of people. Like, usually I expect, United States, Canada, maybe a few from Mexico, and then, like, England, maybe a couple that are, like, France or Scotland or Ireland. Those places that usually it works out. But we've had quite a few from places like Colombia. Let's see, what are the Argentina, Brazil, down in some of those places, down in South America, which I didn't expect. And then we've had quite a few from places like Belarus and Yugoslavia. It's not Yugoslavia anymore, right? Because now it's the I don't know. Anyway.
Welcome to geography.
Yeah, so was never my best class at school anyway. So, but anyway, I want to thank a lot of you for watching. A lot of international viewers that are tuning in and watching even the old videos, which is kind of neat to see. But one of the first things, though, I wanted to touch on was the big news this week was that Microsoft bought ZeniMax Studios.
Yep.
And ZeniMax Studios, they own Bethesda, they own id Software.
Yeah.
There's a handful of others that are owned by ZeniMax. I forget exactly who all is in there. Do you remember any of the others?
Only Bethesda and id.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because those are the big ones, of course. And a lot of people are wondering why Microsoft would do this, because they're not making the games exclusive. That's one of the things they said, is they're not making the games exclusive. So, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, those types of properties will still be going to PlayStation as well as Xbox. So people were wondering, why would they spend this money to buy ZeniMax and all of their game studios if they're not going to make it exclusive? And that's because people kind of tend to forget that Microsoft is not really in the console business. They sell consoles, but they're not really in the console business. The big thing with Microsoft is their game services and their cloud computing. They have a bunch of different software that they use for cloud computing and for streaming information and for different things that happen. And the dog is getting ready to jump on the couch. You want to grab him? Just go ahead and pick him up. There's our dog. There's Curly. Say hi, Curly. He's actually getting a haircut in 2 days. So anyway, so they wanted the catalog to come to the Microsoft Game Pass. They made the big deal with EA, so all of the EA stuff is coming to Game Pass. Now that they've bought ZeniMax, all of those games are coming to Game Pass. Game Pass is actually a big part of their business. Game Pass is Xbox and PC. You got to remember, the Xbox exists to push DirectX. That's where the X in Xbox comes from. It's from DirectX. DirectX is the graphics language, the programming language that they're using in order to push the gaming platform. They want games developed for Xbox because that helps get games developed for PC. And as the console generations have evolved, the Xbox has actually gotten closer to a PC with every generation. And in fact, this next one, they've said developing it is going to be developing almost identical for PC when they develop for Xbox. So this opens up the whole idea that all of these game publishers that are coming under ZeniMax, it's going to be so much easier for them. They're going to make it for PC. As soon as they make it for PC, they've got it for Xbox.
Not to mention, this also kind of like kicks out Apple, because you can't really play all those Microsoft games.
Yeah, well, not a lot of people play games on Apple anyway.
Not a lot of people have Apple anyway.
So, I mean, that really doesn't matter as much. But then, in order to develop for PlayStation, they have to rework everything from the ground up pretty much in order to shift it over. So it makes it much easier for them to sell the idea of develop it first for PC and Xbox, because that's one development, and then you can port it over to whatever other systems. But really, Game Pass. Anyway, so you made a video about the Messenger?
No.
What?
No.
I thought you were...
Oh, wait. Is it in here?
What is this?
Is it the video in there? Get it? Because I'm a messenger. That's the mail. We'll be right back after this video.
I'm so confused.
Messenger is a 2D side-scrolling platformer released on August 30th, 2018. Developed by Sabotage Studio and published by Devolver Digital. The game follows The Messenger, a ninja who has to deliver a scroll. Of course, this isn't easy, as an army of demons infest the world, and you have to scale a mountain. Seeing as this game is a 2D platformer, how does it control? Oh, it's amazing. This game's controls are very tight and responsive, everything flows together. The cloud leap mechanic is one of the main reasons why I love this game so much. After attacking an enemy, a projectile, or a lantern, you get an extra jump to use in midair. And yes, you can keep chaining them together. There's no limit. This single addition adds so much cool stuff you can do with many new types of puzzles. As you may have already noticed, this game is an 8-bit... No, never mind, 16-bit. Another great gimmick this game adds is past and future, represented by 8-bit and 16-bit respectively. Now, in my opinion, the 16-bit looks the best, but the 8-bit has a charm as well. This game is beautifully crafted. It's not all looks. The level designs are top-notch, allowing you to go back through it later, looking for hidden goodies, as well as just having fun with how good the platforming feels. Not only is the level design and art amazing, so is the writing. It's very meta and self-aware, and I just love that style of humor. I know it's not for everyone, but you don't have to read it. If you're just looking for gameplay, that's there. Speaking of gameplay, this game is hard. It's gonna kick your butt. It's not as hard as other platformers, but a few mess-ups and you're toast. Which I got a lot, seeing as I like to play Fast and Furious. Now, for one of my favorite things about this game. The music. This game's music is beautiful. Amazingly crafted by Rainbow Dragon Eyes. Here's just a list of my favorite tracks. You heard it throughout the review so far, and it is just amazing. It's one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time. Every song is a bop, every song has been perfectly crafted. So, that's The Messenger. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. It's amazing, but the only drawback is that in order to beat the game, you have to go back through older locations, but still able to spice that up with new routes and shortcuts. The difficulty curve feels fair, all of the enemies feel balanced. The only bit I really disliked was this bit in Forlorn Temple with the instant-crush walls, but it was over before you even know it. If you like 2D platformers or just want to play a good game, I cannot recommend this game enough.
Wow, what'd you think of that video?
It wasn't in this envelope. I'm still... okay. So you apparently like the game, you like the music, you like the graphics, you like the feel of it.
Yep.
You just like everything about it.
Yeah, basically.
Pretty much.
I like the writing. It's very meta, which I know a lot of people really don't like, but you can easily skip the text. The gameplay just is amazing. Everything's very fluid. It's very tight controls. If you press a button, it'll do it. There's not really delay on it, which is crazy that I'm saying that that's a good thing, but there have been a lot of games recently I've played where there's just the slightest bit of delay just throws me off completely.
Because it's not an online game.
Right.
You're not playing online with a bunch of other people like
Yeah.
a Fortnite or something, so you're not dealing with the information traveling back and forth.
Yeah.
I got frustrated in a couple spots. I streamed this on Twitch.
Yeah. Hey. Oh, well, here are our channels, because I also stream on Twitch.
If you go to Twitch, you can find me here, and you can find him there.
Mine's bigger.
Yeah, well, I only have a couple videos on there right now. But anyway, so I ended up like I played it for a while, and I kind of got frustrated, and I was having problems with Twitch anyway because it was like dropping frames and having all these problems. So I turned it off, and I changed a bunch of settings, and I tried to fix a bunch of stuff, and I came back in, and I started playing again, and I'm playing. With the keyboard because I couldn't get it to recognize any gamepads. No matter what gamepad I plugged in.
Gamepad?
Controller?
Oh, let's say
gamepad.
I've never heard that term before.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well...
When I think of gamepad, I think of like a laptop pad, but like something you plug in to your computer to make it objectively worse.
Okay, well, it's gamepad or controller.
Okay.
But anyway, no matter what I plugged in, it wouldn't recognize it. And it just wouldn't... I tried with the Duke, I tried with the PlayStation 3 wired controller, I tried whatever. So anyway, I just used keyboard to do everything, and I really got frustrated with a lot of the areas where it's like you jump and you hit something, and so then you jump again, and there's something flying at you, and so you want to like hit the projectile and then jump again, which is like the Ninja Gaiden style of Twitch gameplay that they do, which is some people really like that. That's fine. That is a style of gameplay. I particularly don't care that much for it. That's a style of platformer that it's not.
When I play, I want to go. Like, I think that's why I like Sonic the Hedgehog so much, because I just want to move fast. I want to go forward. And this game lets me do that, like, vertically as well, with the Cloud Step, which is what I mentioned, where you hit something, you can jump again, you hit it, jump again. That's what I really like with this game. You get a grappling hook later on, you get a wingsuit that lets you glide down slower in order to get more distance.
So if you're familiar at all with games like Strider or Ninja Gaiden, like the classic 8-bit or 16-bit games from that era, that's what this game, obviously is trying to emulate. And you'll probably really enjoy that. I like to explore.
Oh, games. You can do that.
I know, but I don't like there's a bottomless pit. So you just fall in the pit and you're instantly dead. Like, I don't like that. I'd rather you fall in the pit and then you have to figure out a way to get out, where you have to be clever, you gotta, whatever. It's just a different style of gameplay.
But I think this game also handles that very well, where you get this little demon following you and then he eats the money.
Right.
Because there's still a punishment to dying, but that way there's also not a life system. Because game overs need to have a game over.
Right, well, and in the modern era, that's one way of dealing with it, because back in that era...
it was a quarter.
Yeah, right, you'd put in a quarter in the arcade.
Yeah.
So then when the games came home, they had to kind of figure out a way, how do you work around that? So they would do like 3 continues, right? So you'd have 3 lives, 3 continues, and then it was game over. So you kind of had that experience where you really had to beat it, and if you didn't beat it, there was some sort of...
punishment.
Punishment for losing. But I don't know. I got so frustrated with a lot of the... It's not quite pixel perfect, but it's close. It's very close on a lot of the stuff, where you have to hit things just right, or you jump just right. And I got frustrated a lot of times where, like, say you're climbing on the wall.
Okay.
You get to the top and you want to jump over.
Okay.
And sometimes you hit jump and you'll jump up and over, and sometimes you'll hit jump and you'll kind of jump back, and you have to like correct yourself in midair.
Oh, that's because you jump based off the direction you're holding. If you're on the wall, then you jump out, but if you do a cloud step, then you jump up.
Yeah, well...
Okay,
I want it to be more consistent.
It is consistent if you know the rules!
Well, like I said, and that's a gaming vocabulary.
Yeah.
Every game has its own vocabulary of how the rules work, how the things interact. And once you learn it, then it's fine.
Yeah.
I remember there was a game on PlayStation 1 called Jet Moto.
Yeah.
And it was like jet skis on water. So there was a lot of water physics.
Yeah.
And so turning was not like in a car where you would turn like Ridge Racer. You had to think about you're on waves. If you're going up and you're trying to turn, it's not going to work because you're kind of in the air.
Yeah.
You have to wait till you're coming down on a turn, and then you can hit the curve. So there's a vocabulary to the game to get it. So this game, you have to play for a while and experiment to get the vocabulary of how it's going to work. The problem is it throws you into things without... I feel like it doesn't do enough to give you that vocabulary early on. It just hopes that you're going to stumble upon it.
Well,
and the things that it is giving you is like the cloud step. It gives you that early. But you don't really need it early. That's something that can come along later. And I felt like there were a lot of levels where it's like, oh look, it's the slow green turtles and the fire-breathing red turtles, and I'm jumping up and I'm jumping down and I'm jumping over and I'm jumping up and I'm jumping down and I'm jumping over, and I'm repeating a lot of very similar level design with them. Which,
well, you said you only beat the first level, right?
I played all the way through to like the
Leaf,
leaf monster. Yeah.
You basically beat the first level. Then you basically beat the tutorial.
Right, but that was still 40 minutes, half hour, or something like that.
Then you died way too often.
Oh, I died a lot. if you watch the Twitch stream, I died a lot in some of those levels. But anyway, that's just. And I also don't like games that have skill trees a lot of times, because I feel like I don't know where I need to focus.
See,
I'd much rather that they just automatically give you power-ups as you go.
That's fair, although I'm the type of guy who really likes skill trees, because I can invest all my things into this style of gameplay, the one I prefer more.
Yeah.
Like if I want to do the one that's all about dashing forward, even though there's, just as an example, then I would put my skill points in that as compared to something that lets me jump higher or something.
Well, and actually, I bought a power-up that ended up messing with me more, and that was the one where when you get knocked back, you can do an air jump.
Oh, cloud step? Yeah.
Which I mean, it sounds good. Like it's a good thing to have.
Oh, it's amazing.
But when I'm trying to jump like platform to platform and do this other stuff, and then I get hit, and I'm expecting to go a certain way, and I forget that now I have this new ability where I can add this extra jump, and now suddenly I'm like jumping into spikes.
So now just learn.
I know, but it's just like it's like I learned a certain vocabulary, and now it's you know. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like I can understand why you like it. It's a fun game. It's a Twitch game. It's very much for people that like to sit there with the controller and they're platforming, doing a lot of that type of stuff.
Oh, I also like hitting a lot of buttons really fast. So there's that too, because once you get to the later levels, the game demands a lot out of you. Like, you see something, you have to react. If you get hit, you will die. In fact, without spoiling much, there's this big boss near the end of the game, and if you mess up once, you're dead. You have to do everything perfectly.
Yeah, and see, I would hate that.
But it's at the end of the game, you've already got everything, you've already explored the area, you just have to go back through it. Speaking of which, the game's level design, you said it felt similar, right? You just go up, down, around, whatever, just over and over again.
It felt repetitive. Well, there's another aspect to it. But go ahead, say what you're going to say.
One of the things I love about this game's level design is that it's designed for you to go back through it. Not just through it forwards again, but literally backwards. This game is because once you get to a certain point, you have to search back through the older levels for specific items in order to continue the story along.
Okay, yeah, because there was one point I remember I got something, I forget what it was, and then down on the ground I could see there were 2 blocks that were the breakable blocks, but they were in the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I don't have a down attack. I'm like, so I know that there's some point I'm going to have to come back to this point and do some sort of downward smash to break through.
You fly and attack downwards.
Well, whatever.
You get the wingsuit.
But anyway, but the point being is, like, obviously I can't get through there right now, so I'm going to have to revisit this at some point in the future. But the other thing that with that level design, like I said, a lot of it felt repetitive, but part of the problem also was all the enemies respawn as soon as you're
just like in the old
right off screen.
Just like in the old games.
Well, no, not just like the old games.
And just like most of the old games.
And not even.
Just like some of the old games.
Just like in a handful of the old games. But seriously, you know, your room is, let's say it's 3 platforms and the third one's on the top. You can't see it from the bottom, and there's a wall dividing in the middle of the 2 platforms. So you got to jump up the third platform, across, jump down, down. So as you're going up, you have stuff here attacking, so you're fighting. You get to the third. When you get up to the third, whatever's on the first has disappeared. It's scrolled up. So you run across, you come back down, and now as it comes back down to the bottom, everything you've killed on the bottom has now respawned. And that's just how the game is. If you can just walk back and the things respawn. And so there were a couple points where I had the demon thing following me around, and I was just walking in and killing a bunch of stuff, and I'd walk through the doorway, walk back in, kill a couple things, walk out, walk back in, kill a couple things. It would just eat all the jewels until it was happy. It would leave, and then I was like, okay, now I can move on.
Well, have you tried just being good at the game?
No.
Oh, okay.
Why would I want that? And I guess that's another thing is I do enjoy games where you can win through multiple different ways, and this is very much you're going here and you're going to do it this way.
I guess so, but it allows you to do it in your own style. If that makes sense. Well, like it's not like a Mario game. You have to get from point A to B. You have to use the power-ups in the level. Maybe there's a secret exit. With this game, especially with the skill tree involved, as we mentioned before, you can do stuff in your own style. For example, I like to run at stuff, take it head on, die 15 times in the process, but I still got it done eventually.
Okay, but that is the same as a Mario. Because what I'm saying is the difference is, like if I'm playing something like 7 Days to Die, and I have to fetch, like supplies that are in a house that's infested with zombies.
Okay.
I can actually build a bunch of frames and hop up the side of the building.
Yeah.
And break in on the top floor, and just kill a couple things on the top floor and find the thing hidden in the wall and jump out, as opposed to going in the bottom floor and fighting my way through the house.
What you're saying is you'd rather have your own freedom to explore the levels and do whatever you want?
Those are the type of games I explore. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I like more of those. That's one of the. That's why I'm saying I'm not as much of a fan of this style of game.
Fair. Although once you get the grappling hook, stuff really does open up. You can attack things from further away. You can latch onto stuff. There are some new walls that open up. You can climb up, like a little gremlin.
No. So anyway, all right.
Okay, I have this message for you.
Okay, wait, hold on. Before we get to this though, so for you, I'm gonna guess. Did you buy it on Steam? Is that how you got it?
It was free on the Epic Games Store a while back.
Oh, okay.
It was just one of those games I was just like, I mean, I get every single free Epic Games Store, even the rated M ones, but I don't play them.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
But it just gives me a great back catalog of games to play, especially now that we're in quarantine. Especially since I was in quarantine over the summer, I had some good free time. So I was able to start up new games. Like, even if I play them for 10...
Not my point. My point was, did you pay money for this, is what I'm asking. Okay. Would you pay money?
Yes.
Do you think this is worth $15? 20. Yeah. What if it was $29.99 with all the DLC?
Well, if DLC is free, so...
Okay, but what if the DLC wasn't free?
Yes, it's good, high-quality DLC. In fact, I played something on this... Hey, in fact, I'll be finishing the DLC this week on stream. Here's the Twitch link. So, yes, the DLC is fun. It's very high quality.
Okay.
You get
My point is, though, you think it's worth buying.
Yes.
You think it's worth paying full price for.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, it's on Game Pass. You can download it. You can try it. It's not... As long as you already have the Game Pass, go ahead and try it. If you don't have Game Pass, I would not go out of my way to play this. I know we have different gaming expectations and tastes.
This is the internet. We all must share one collective hive mind. And if you disagree with me in the slightest, I will beat you.
That's not how it works on this channel. The Pop Culture Network was founded on the idea that Duvall likes My Little Pony, and we all make fun of him for it.
You don't?
So, So yeah, for me, not a huge fan of it. If you like those style of games, you're probably going to love it, but it's just not my type of game.
Yeah.
So there's that. All right, now we're going to do the actual mailbag.
Yeah, it's a message, like the name of the game, The Messenger.
And we actually have some things in here.
We have some real mail.
It didn't actually come in the mail though. I just printed it out on paper because I'm old, and that's what I do.
Boomer.
Just a few things real quick here. That new toy smell, talking about UB Funkies.
Alright.
Absolute Squid posted. There's actually a Discord server for UB Funkies that has almost 1,000 members. Excuse me. So I was like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. So I click, I open the thing up, because I have to have Discord because everybody has Discord. Even though I never use it and I don't like it, I still have it because whatever. Sure enough, there's a lot of... Is it 1,000? I don't know. Might be 1,000. Might be 950. I'm not sure how close it is to 1,000. There's a lot of people. I mean, there are tons and tons of people on this server, and there are... Are they rooms?
Chat rooms.
Are they rooms? Is that what they're called on Discord?
They're called chats.
Okay.
You have a server and then you have a chat.
Okay. Well, and there's tons and tons of chats on there about funkies and trading funkies and the history of them, and people, and then just people talking about like how their day was and whatever. So,
general.
If you want to join the apparently world's largest UB Funkies collective, don't kick the camera.
Sorry.
Then you want to go to discord.gg/ubfunkies, and you can find the Discord server there.
And if you want to talk to me, don't, because I won't be active.
You'll find my name on Discord is Dirtmound, I believe.
Mine is _the_gamers. Underscore is not actual word.
For
the number.
Let's see. On last week's episode, the Tiger Electronics Transformers Generation 2 LCD game review, Mike Smith asked, do you think Sony's continued use of proprietary memory sticks is their biggest gaming blunder?
What?
So, yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm guessing somebody somewhere did a video about Sony and their memory sticks. So that I'm guessing that's what brought on this comment. So, I had to think what Sony has made some big mistakes in gaming, and that's not to say that Microsoft hasn't, Nintendo hasn't, Sega hasn't, whatever, but Sony's made some big ones, like the launch of the PS3. And the price of it, and how it looked like a George Foreman grill.
Wasn't there some ad with a baby and the PS3 explodes or something?
Yeah, it was. That was a mistake. That was a blunder. And then Sony's a technology company, and they were hacked, for 2 months or something. The network was shut down. You couldn't play online. And then they found out they'd gotten people's credit card information and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was a big deal. So we had LifeLock, whatever. Sony gave us 2 years of LifeLock or whatever for that, whatever. So that was a pretty big blunder. But yeah, so the memory sticks. When they launched the PSP had the Sony, what is it called? I kind of let that one go because we have a Sony your orange camcorder that you lost.
That I definitely still have.
It uses the same memory sticks as a PSP.
Huh.
And so does this camera as well. This is the Bloggy handheld. The orange camcorder you have is the Bloggy version 2, and it's like a standard camcorder.
Yeah, I prefer that.
But this is it's got a little switch out lens here, and then on the back you've got the video screen. And you can twist it all the way around and talk directly to it. So this was the early days of doing YouTube videos and things like that. You would just have this little camera. You could talk directly to it.
Hey guys, welcome back to PCN Vlogs.
So anyway, one of the big things on this though was that it used the memory stick. This is the same. They called it a Memory Stick Pro Duo. So this is the same as what was in the PSP, and so I could kind of let it slide a little bit, you know, because it's like it's not an SD card, it's its own thing, and you're like, man, really, you have to buy a separate thing? But we had a camcorder that used it, so it made it a little easier to swallow, and you didn't have to reformat it.
True.
So I could just take it out of the PSP and put it in the camera, record video, take the video off, put it back in the PSP, and it was fine. As long as there was free space on there, I could record video. So it was no big deal. But when they came out with the Vita, then the Vita had its own memory stick, and it was just like memory stick Vita or something like that was what it was called, and it was only used for the Vita. Like, I never saw a camera that used it. I never saw a camcorder. It was only for the Vita, and it was expensive.
Jeez.
So it was like a 32 megabyte Vita stick was like $80, $100, something like that. So you're buying a $300 handheld system, and then you have to buy a $100 memory stick.
At that point, just buy a console. Like,
I mean, but the thing was, like, the Vita was a nice system. Like, it was touchscreen. It had the dual sticks.
It had Loco Roco.
Well, that was PSP.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wait, the PSP and PS Vita are different things?
Yes. PSP and PS Vita are different things.
I thought PSP was portable.
To be honest, the PSP we played... The PS Vita was a nicer piece of hardware, but the PSP actually had better games. It had more games, and we ended up playing that one more. The Vita had more technologically advanced games. Like, it had Mortal Kombat. It had the Battle Royale, the PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale game was on there.
It was just like the first Nintendo Switch.
Pretty much, kind of. It was a really powerful handheld system, but yeah, having that memory stick was ridiculous. Because you could buy a 32 megabyte SD card for like $29.99, but it was, $80 to buy one. I think it was $100 to buy the Sony one and $80 to buy the off-brand one, which is why I have the off-brand one on the camera there. But that's how it always was with Sony. Is like they always said, "Oh, you have to use our specific," and it added so much cost.
Sony reminds me a bit of Apple, how they want everything to be their thing, whereas Microsoft and Microsoft, they're like, like with Android phones to Apple phones, Android phones have a lot more.
Well, that's Google, so
So Microsoft and Google, they give you a lot more freedom and accessibility of things. Like, you can download APK files for games. You can, like, Homebrew, you can play those games on there, whereas Apple and I guess Sony as well, they're a lot more strict on what you can do.
Right. But see, one of the biggest things, one of their biggest gaming blunders, I think, honestly, and this might be bigger than the memory sticks, was the PlayStation 3, when it launched. One of the things it had was the ability to install Linux on there as a separate operating system. So you had it as a gaming system, but then you could put Linux on it, and you plugged a keyboard and mouse in the USB ports, and it was a computer. And it was a full-fledged computer.
All right.
And the cell processor that was in the PlayStation 3 was actually designed to work well in a network.
Yeah.
So if you had a bunch of PlayStation 3s together, you could network them together, and they would work as one powerful system. So there were actually places that would use, like college, universities, whatever, they would buy 16 or 32 PlayStation 3s, put Linux on them, network them together, and they had basically a supercomputer.
Wow. That
they were running off of this stuff. So for very experimental stuff. Now, for people at home, it was more of a novelty.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big of a deal. But they removed the ability because they said people were using it to play pirated games and whatever. And they also wanted to take back some of that space and reserve that space for future updates to the system.
Another thing is, why Linux? Why not anything better?
No, because Linux is open source. So Linux, there's literally 1,000 different versions of Linux, and so you can make Linux specific to your particular machine, and it'll just work. So I mean, technically, your Android phone is Linux, your Chromebook is Linux.
I don't have a Chromebook anymore, broke.
Well, but technically, those are
Yeah,
Linux.
all right.
Because of the ability to modify it. So, and because they took out that ability to have Linux on there as a separate operating system, they actually got sued, and it was a class action lawsuit. And so, like, I got a letter in the mail. It's like, you may be eligible for this lawsuit because you owned a PlayStation 3, and if you had Linux installed. And I was like, yeah, that was me. I had it on there. Obviously, whatever. So, filled out the thing. Of course, with a class action lawsuit, Sony ends up paying, I don't know, $80 million. The lawyers get $40 million. Everybody else who signs up through the lawsuit, we all got $2.38 or something like that. Like, I literally got a check in the mail for $2 and some cents.
Let's get a candy bar.
But still, like, that was a big deal. And actually, I think some people were so upset that may be part of the reason why they got hacked.
Oh.
In the first place, was because they got rid of that other host feature. So, I mean, yeah, the proprietary memory sticks, that's... I mean, oh, man. Which is the bigger blunder?
Well, which was the bigger blunder? Them literally having a class action lawsuit thrown against them, or them using a different type of memory card?
Well, yeah, but the problem was with the memory sticks, they were so expensive that it instantly made the system like too expensive right off the bat. And the memory that was built in, you could only save a couple games.
Yeah.
So... I mean, those are both really... But yeah, I think if you lead to a lawsuit where people are suing you, and that may technically have led to the hack, that's probably the bigger blunder. Yeah. But the memory sticks, like, at least with a camera that uses the PSP Memory Stick Pro Duos, I could forgive it somewhat because I could reuse them in some capacity. The ones on the Vita, I can never use for anything other than the Vita. They never get used for anything else. At least these, like, I can still use this camera. It still uses those sticks. I still use the PSP. Like, once a year, twice a year, we still pull out the PSP. Yeah, we're like, oh, hey, look what I found. And you played Loco Roco for a couple days. Yeah. We played a day or two of Fat Princess and something else, and and then we put them away for a year. So there's that. Okay.
Welcome back to another episode of We Answered Your Question with a Story for 20 Minutes.
J Tizzle Faux Shizzle. That's his actual name.
He sure is.
J Tizzle Faux Shizzle. On the That New Toy Smell episode 12 Skylanders episode, he said for him, one of the flaws about Skylanders is no articulation. I understand during the first few it made sense that they couldn't do it, but honestly later in the line the fact that none of them had any movement baffled me. If we're paying more and more money for basically the same figures, I feel like some kind of movement would have helped the line at least a little longer.
Alright.
Now, we had a bit of a conversation. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But, I said with Superchargers, they did put articulation with the wheels and the helicopter blades and whatever. But the one thing that came to mind for me was the Mega Blocks. Do you remember Skylanders had Mega Blocks? Or not Mega Blocks. Like Legos, off-brand Legos.
Okay.
So the Mega Blocks brand, which makes Mega Constructs, they made the Masters of the Universe minifigs and the...
Right, yeah, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Alright.
Okay, so anyway, but you had a set or two of the Skylanders.
I still have the sheep somewhere.
Okay, well I think you've got the Spyro sitting on your shelf.
Oh, it's Dark Spyro with the, helmet.
Because when you look at the bottom, it looks like Lego.
Yeah, it looks like a Dragonborn helmet from Skyrim. It looks like he's wearing.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was thinking about the fact that because they had those Mega Constructs, Mega Blocks figures, it made me wonder if they didn't have articulation because Activision was holding out trying to get a toy license.
True.
Because they had a cartoon, they had the games, they got the Mega Blocks. You could go into Party City and you could find party hats
Yeah.
and tablecloths and all
You
the stuff. For
still find
birthdays.
that stuff.
Can you?
Yeah, last time we went to Party City, they had a full section dedicated to it because they just can't get rid of it.
Well, they might still. But I wonder if maybe they were trying to get a deal with someplace like Jazzwares or one of these toy companies to try to get actual articulated figures. So their hope was, we have these figures for the game, they look like statues, so let's make a deal with a toy company and then maybe we can get fully articulated figures, action figures made, so we can sell you the same figure again as an action figure that you will play with as a separate toy.
Now, I don't think the articulation ever mattered to me, and I play with these a lot, you can confirm.
Right.
Like, I think the lack of articulation actually made it a bit better for me to use. Because whenever I used to play with toys with articulation, I'm constantly always like, oh, they have to be in a certain pose, oh, I've got to make them do the right thing. Whereas with these, it's just like, oh, he's in this pose the entire time. That's all I mean, aside from making the arm shake a little, which I don't think is supposed to be movable, you can't really change them.
And you like that?
I think it definitely helped me with just... Plus also, if they're movable, then they're more likely to have pieces that can come out.
Well, true. I think not having them articulated allowed them to have more detail. Put them in more interesting poses. But again, I think it was just Activision hoping that they could sell you the same figure again through a toy license.
Speaking of more unique poses, Enigma, the guy we showed off last week, one of my favorites, he's like the magic guy with the big circle wand, he's like turning invisible.
Sure.
You can't have a figure like that and have it posable. Especially if you want it to be like a cool pose like he is, holding the staff, turning invisible. Like, once they got to a lot of the later stuff, they got into more dynamic poses, like one of the characters staying out kicking, with their arms out.
Oh, sure. But I guess you could make the argument that they could have the light core style figures that would be stuck in that pose because the light from the portal would illuminate them.
Yeah.
But then you could have a fully articulated one separate.
Alright, okay, that's fair.
Or maybe that was something they were just hoping to add later down the line. Maybe they thought they had another version or two of Skylanders to develop before they would get to that point, but the sales with superchargers tanked so badly that Imaginators did
well enough.
It did well. The thing was, it didn't have that initial zoom like they wanted. Like Superchargers died. I mean that one did the absolute worst.
Oh.
Imaginators, it didn't take off like they were hoping. Yeah. All the other ones had this huge blast right for the Christmas season. Imaginators didn't have that blast, but it had legs, so you could still find them for a year in the stores. They didn't immediately drop off. Now, Toys R Us was overstocked. Toys R Us was having their own bankruptcy problems, and they were having problems there. But other places like GameStop, or if you went into places that were like Kohl's or JCPenney, or places like that really didn't understand the game market, but they always carried that type of stuff, they still had them. They were still regular price. They were still there for 2 years on out. And people were still buying them, to be fair. People were still picking them up from time to time. So
I think what ultimately killed it, aside from just the dying market, was the fact that they pushed so much stuff. Like, just extra stuff. Like, you get the extra crates, which we did buy a lot of. You could get hexes, a billion of them. Like, they pushed the vehicles, they pushed the Imaginator crystals, they pushed the Imaginator chests. Like, there's just so much extra stuff that was no longer just buy the characters you like, and some that you'll need to unlock special areas. It was now buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, and now you've got a full complete game to play.
Right. I think they tried to do two things at the same time. One was to sell you the $60 game with the $20 of paraphernalia and a couple figures on top, so there's your $100 bundle. But then they also wanted to sell you a bunch of new figures and new accessories and new stuff to go with them. and they should have either done the game as service model, so have one game, and the game gets updated, like Lego Dimensions. Lego Dimensions only had the one game. But when you bought the new set, you bought the new figures, it would unlock new stuff in the game, and the game would grow depending on what you purchased. So the one game would grow. So they should have either done something like that, or do the opposite, where if you want to keep coming out with a new game, all of the figures need to be interchangeable. So every figure that I've ever bought needs to work on every version of the game. When you come out with a new character later on down the line, he needs to be somehow connected to an older character, so that when you put him into the older game, he appears as like a special version of that older character. Not having that connection just means that certain characters wouldn't work. And I worked at when I was working at Killen's at the time. I was working at a place that sold video games, and we sold Skylanders figures, and we had a lot of this stuff coming through. And there would be, kids who would get superchargers for Christmas. Or they'd say their parents would come in and buy them Giants. Yeah. But then they'd go to the store and buy some superchargers figures, and the figures don't work in Giants, and they couldn't understand. It was an older version of the game. They didn't work, but this is Skylanders, and this is Skylanders. Why doesn't Skylanders work in Skylanders? So they created their own problem there. So I think that was really another. They should have gone with the game as a service with a bunch of toys, or they should have gone with a bunch of toys
with a game.
Wait,
with game.
I just said the same thing. Two different ways. The game as a service with a bunch of toys, or a bunch of games with a single line of toys.
Yeah.
That's what they should have done. So.
Not to mention the amount of just insane merchandise they pushed. Not even figures like plushies, extra like coloring.
Well, that's just licensing.
Yeah, but there's so much.
Right, but that's not really them. That's everyone else wanting a piece of the pie. That would be like you and me. We own a company that makes bed sheets. Yeah. And we go, hey, Skylanders is big. We'll pay you $1 million for the rights to make bed sheets of Skylanders.
Yeah, right.
And then we're selling Skylanders bed sheets. Right, yeah. So that's not really them. That's just the market.
Yeah. Thanks, market.
All right. Anything else you want to add before you wrap up for the day?
I have needed to yawn for like the last 30 minutes.
I know. I can see you like over there.
Hey, I'd like to plug my Twitch again. I try to stream 3 times a week. Here's the link. Oh, that rhymes.
3 times a week. Here's the link.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to start saying that on all your Twitch streams.
Yeah. Hey.
All right, guys. That's gonna do it for us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
My glasses!